This morning the Lord has led us to look at one of the more popular stories in the Bible and the history of the people of God. And that's the story of David and Goliath. And I think all of us know the story of how, David went and acted as an agent of God in the midst of the worst adversity, trusting and knowing that God was going to give him victory, and God in fact did so. And it's quite appropriate, this story, for our theme, because it's not only about the encounter, it's also about the call and about the action. And David personifies what an encounter with God is all about, what that call should be all about, and the action that has taken him to be the powerful man of God that we have known him to be. It's also appropriate this morning because we're celebrating Father's Day. In my argument that I met with the men, we had a great breakfast yesterday. When I met with the men, I was telling them that we need to take our place. We need to take our respective proper places in the church, in our community, and at home. Because for too long now, we have relinquished that place to someone else. And this is not about the macho man image that's portrayed in the world. This is not about oppressing women. This is not about working from an insecure place where we feel we have to dominate everybody. That's not what men of God do. What men of God do is what David did with Goliath. What David did was recognize the presence of God in his life and look at Goliath as just another opportunity to demonstrate that the God who touched his life, the God who lives with him, is the God that has the power to knock down giants. And then he did not only speak about it, he went out and he did it. As men of God, we have to be ready to do the same. We got to be ready to reclaim our place in our households, in our church, in our community. As young men who are not fathers yet, you have to be ready to do the same. Don't wait. Don't wait until you're already married, until you already have children, to decide that you're going to be a man of God. You got to be a man of God right now, right this moment. You got to learn how to be that, how to do that, because that's how you will see the hand of God throughout your whole life. David met Goliath, and you and I meet other giants. David had to confront this huge man of war. The Bible describes him as being just totally enormous. I think that somewhere along the line the writer kind of exaggerated. But this was a huge guy who knew how to fight, and knew how to fight really well. Who had brought fear to the Israelites and to their army. This is so similar to the world that we live in. Every day I come across different giants. And every day I speak to believers like us who've become scared of those giants. You want to be cautious. Listen to me now. You want to know your enemy. You don't want to be blinded to the stuff that wants to kill you. But when you are in God's hands, when you've had a real encounter with the Lord, Because the God who's on your side, the God who called you, the God who blessed you, the God who anointed you, will give you the power and the strength to defeat any giant that this world may bring before you. It got to a point with Israel that they just were dead afraid of this man. I'm arguing this morning, and I'll probably preach some more about this. I'm arguing this morning that the church has become afraid of so many giants that this world has given us. And they're bad. We have giants of drug addiction. We have giants of alcoholism. We have giants of unemployment. We have giants of juvenile delinquency. We have giants of depression. We have giants of anger. We have giants of confusion. I could go on for the next half hour telling you that there are thousands of giants out there that you and I have been called to confront. And in many instances, we have succumbed to these giants, not taking into account that the God who's with us, whose church we are, is bigger and greater than those giants anytime, any day, at any moment. What are the giants that have you in fear? What are the giants that are taking away from you the fight? What are the giants that are in the way of you being a happy person, a joyous person? I always tell you, happiness is dependent on what's going on in your emotions, but joy comes from the Lord, and it's 24/7. What keeps you from that? The army was paralyzed. The enemy were laughing at them. When you go home, read the whole story. It's rather interesting. The enemy many times laughs at the church. Because you know what I think sometimes the enemy tells us? Or he's saying to himself, look at that church. They proclaim to serve a living God who's powerful and great, and yet I do whatever I want with them. This Philistine, he used to come out and tell the armies, what's going on? You're an army or not? Come and fight me. You have the guts? Do it. What are you standing there for? You know, any time that you and I succumb to negativity, to hopelessness, anytime we succumb to the I don't care whatever attitude, that's the giant laughing at us. Say, what's up? What's up, Christy? So you're talking about being a woman of God? And now you're all getting weary and punky-eyed because some insignificant stuff that I throw at you? Have you ever thought about that picture? You're in school, you're hanging out, the devil throws some booze or some weed, and you go right ahead and you smoke the weed. You get polluted because you weren't man enough to stand up and say, I don't do that no more because I serve a living God. And the enemy saying, oh, guy that on Sunday was in church, blessed be the name of the Lord. And now I just poked him a little bit, and he folded. He folded like a bad shirt. What's up with that? What's up with that? We have to be willing and ready to live the encounter that God has given us every single day of our lives, because there will be giants in the midst of our reality every moment of our lives. Should I repeat that? We have to be ready to live out the encounter that God has given us, to live out our faith, to know who our God is every single day, because every moment of our lives you will be confronted with a different giant. And some of us will have the same giant, and some of us may have different giants. And some of them may be a little smaller giants than others, but every day you will be confronted with a different giant that has drawn the line in the sand and has said to you, you can't go past me, ha 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 ha. You can be more than this. Don't believe the hype that you're a man of God, that you're a woman of God. No, you're not. I got control over you. More times than what we care to admit, when we get to that line, instead of standing up and doing like David did and said, listen, I may be a kid, I may be young. You know what's interesting, and then when you read that part either, was that when Saul saw David's guns, Saul the king gave David his armor, gave him the best breastplate, gave him the best shield, the best sword, and when David put all that stuff on, he couldn't walk because it didn't fit him. So he took everything off. And David tells the guy, the king, he said, I'm taking all this off because I may be young, I don't have any soldier experience, I may look skinny, and you may think I don't know what I'm doing, but the only thing that I do know is the only thing that's going to give me victory. I know that my God lives. I know that my God is real. And I know that my strength and my power will not come from your sword, will not come from your shield, but will come from the power of God who's with me. I know that. And we need to be those kind of people today. We need to face up to our giants. And look at these giants and go, okay. All right, what do you want to let's hang out? Okay, let's hang out. Okay, what do you okay, I'll go to church. I'll please you, baby. Because you love me. Get overwhelmed, not realizing that we have a God who's ready to sustain you, to support you, to work with you, to give you strength, and to give you victory. David's attitude, however arrogant, is the attitude that we all need to have. David was like in shock. When he came and he saw what was going on, he said, "What? This dude is in the way? Are you kidding me?" You know, when you're in the most difficult place in your life, you face up to him. You don't cop out. You don't run. You don't ignore it. You face up to it. Because you're doing so with the power of God. How many of us have had an encounter with God? Raise your hands. How many of us have had an encounter with God? Raise your hands. Then use that encounter. You stand up to the giants. You get ready to fight. You don't back away. You say, Pastor, this is going to be really hard. And I'm going to tell you, well, maybe you may lose 1 or 2 battles. But I guarantee you, and I promise you, that you will win the war. The truth of the matter is that it's not like you guys, all of you, no matter how young you are. It's not like you haven't fought battles before. It's not like you haven't seen the hand of God before, amen? David tells Saul, listen, when I was out in the wilderness all by myself, I had to take on lions and bears. And I killed them because God was with me. So what do you think I'm going to do to this dude? What are you going to do with the giants that you're facing? Are you going to run scared? What are you going to do with those giants that seem to overwhelm you? Are you going to hide? Or this morning I should ask you on a positive level, what are you going to do with the encounter of God? Are you going to use it? What are you going to do with the power of God? Are you just going to let it sit there? Or are you going to be like David? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? The end of the story is an interesting one because when you act in God's will, when you allow the encounter of God in your life to be the one to dictate your strength and your bravery, your fight doesn't always have to be traditional or conventional. The worst mistake that the enemy made, this Philistine made, was to believe that the God who we serve is always conventional or traditional. So that Philistine was very well prepared to fight arrows, spears, and swords. Very well prepared to fight big men. He was not prepared to get a rock to his head. Have you ever thought about that? You see, because his strength, his power, all that he was, relied on who he thought he was. Your strength, your power, does not rely on who you think you are, but what God has made you to be. And it's never going to be by your strength or by your power, or by my strength or my power, because they'll fail us. It's always going to be by the strength and the power of God in our lives. God is an unconventional God. The least place where you think your solution may come from, it will happen. The strangest moments in your life will transform you. Doesn't have to be complicated. David went by the shore and picked out some stones and put them in his pouch. He did the work. We have to do the work. But how unconventional is it that this powerful man was not taken down by a sword or a spear, but by a stone thrown with the strength of God. of you this morning. How many of us don't have any giants in our lives? How many of us do have giants in our lives? I got good news and bad news. For every giant that you slay, the enemy will bring 3 more. But who's greater? Who's greater? Who's greater? Who's greater? Who? You woke up? Who's greater? Let's bow our heads.